What if the most powerful king in the world was defeated by a creature smaller than a grain of rice? This is not a fantasy. It's not mythology. It's a real story, one rooted in the Qur'an. This is the rise and fall of a tyrant who claimed to be God. A king who ruled Babylon with fire, fear, and force. He thought he could give life. He thought he could control death. He even tried to challenge the Lord of the heavens. But his arrogance would collide with a prophet chosen by Allah. A young man named Ibrahim عليه السلام, armed with nothing but truth. And what happened next? A courtroom showdown. A fire that refused to burn. A nation caught between fear and faith. And a war not fought with swords but with silence, words, and divine will. In the end, this mighty king wasn't brought down by an army, but by a gnat, a tiny insect sent by Allah that turned his palace into a prison of pain. This is the story of power humbled, of truth victorious, of how Allah shows his strength through the weakest of his creation. And once you hear it, you'll never forget it. Make sure you like this video and tell us where you are watching from. You can subscribe to the channel to support us create more videos. A mighty kingdom stood tall. Towers pierced the sky. Temples glowed with gold. Soldiers guarded every corner. At the heart of it all was a man who ruled with no limits. He sat on a high throne, wrapped in fine robe. He spoke, and the people bowed. He pointed, and lives were taken. He raised his hand, and food was given. He said to the people, "I give life, I give death." And the people believed him. No one dared to say otherwise. No one questioned his power. He was treated like a god. Far from the palace, in the quiet of the land, a young man looked up at the sky. His name was Ibrahim. He was not like the others. He did not bow to men. He did not believe in statues. He searched for the truth. At night, he saw a star shining brightly. He said, "This is my Lord." But when the star faded, he said, "I do not love things that disappear." Then he saw the moon glowing above. He said, "This is my Lord." But the moon vanished too. So he said, "If my Lord does not guide me, I will be among those who go astray." When the sun rose, brighter than anything else, he said, "This is my Lord. It is greater." But when the sun set, he turned away from it and said, "O my people, I am free from what you worship. I turn my face to the one who created the heavens and the earth. I am not among the idol worshippers." Ibrahim found what the king could never see. He found the truth. He found the Creator. He found Allah. The people around him were lost in idol worship. They prayed to stones. They bowed to statues. They obeyed a king who claimed to be a god. But Ibrahim knew only Allah deserves to be worshipped. Only Allah gives life and death. Only Allah never dies. The king's name spread far across the land. His pride grew. His throne rose. His temples multiplied. But so did Ibrahim's message. He walked among the people and said, "Why do you worship what cannot speak? Why do you bow to what cannot help you? Your Lord is one. He is the Creator. Worship him alone." The whispers began to reach the palace. "There is a man who speaks against the king. He says the king is not God. He says our idols are nothing." The king's pride was shaken. He stood up in rage. He shouted to his guards, "Bring him to me." Soldiers marched through the town. People watched in silence. The doors of the palace opened wide, and Ibrahim walked through them alone. No fear in his eyes, no doubt in his heart, no hesitation in his steps. He stood before the throne. The king sat high, looking down. The guards stood ready. The hall was silent. Ibrahim looked straight ahead. The storm of truth was about to meet the fire of arrogance. The palace doors slammed behind him. Ibrahim stood alone in the king's grand court. Gold lined the walls. Torches flickered in the shadows. Hundreds of guards lined the hall, all eyes on him. But he didn't flinch. The king sat high on a jeweled throne, tall, proud, wrapped in layers of silk and power, a smirk on his face. His voice echoed across the marble floor. "So you are the one who speaks against me?" Ibrahim answered calmly, "I speak only what is true." The king leaned forward. "Do you know who I am?" "You are a man," Ibrahim replied. But you claim to be a god." The hall gasped. The guards gripped their weapon. But Ibrahim didn't stop. He looked the king in the eyes and said, "My Lord is the one who gives life and causes death." The king laughed loud. He waved his hand, and 2 prisoners were dragged forward. He pointed to the first one. "Kill him." The soldier obeyed. Then he pointed to the second. "Let him go." The man ran out in shock. "See?" the king said. "I give life. I give death." Ibrahim shook his head. "That is not life, and that is not death. You simply chose who dies and who escapes. But you do not create life. You do not return the dead. You control nothing." The king's smile faded. He sat back, narrowing his eyes. Ibrahim stepped forward, his voice stronger now. "If you are God, then tell me this. Allah brings the sun from the east. Can you bring it from the west?" The court fell silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the fire in the torches seemed to pause. The king's fingers clenched the armrest of his throne. His face froze. His tongue failed him. He had no answer. The challenge was simple, but no power on earth could answer it. Bring the sun from the west. He couldn't. He never would. The king looked around the court. His advisors lowered their heads. His guards stayed still. No one dared to speak. He had never been defeated. Not by a sword, not by an army, but by a single sentence. That day, Ibrahim didn't shout. He didn't curse. He didn't fight. He used truth. And the truth struck deeper than any blade. The king's chest burned with rage. His pride was torn. He ordered the court dismissed. Ibrahim was sent away, not punished, not killed, because even the tyrant knew he had been humiliated. Alone in the great hall, the king sat in silence. He stared at the floor. The words repeated in his head. "Bring it from the west." That one sentence haunted him. Outside the palace, the people whispered, "Did you hear what happened?" The king couldn't answer him. Ibrahim stood with no fear. No one has ever done that. The kingdom had seen power, but now it had seen something greater truth. The king began to fear, not of swords or rebellion, but of a man with no army, a man who worshipped no idol, a man who bowed to none but Allah. Ibrahim returned to his people. He continued his mission. He spoke to his father. He challenged his town. He warned. He taught. He called them to the truth. But the king's hatred grew. He couldn't bear to be mocked. He couldn't forget the silence of that day. So he made a plan. If Ibrahim would not stop, he would burn him alive. A fire was prepared. A fire so massive, even birds could not fly above it. Ibrahim was tied. The flames roared. The people watched. But the king didn't know. The one who brings the sun from the east was watching from above. The flames rose high. Sparks lit the sky like falling stars. The crowd stood in awe. Children hid behind their mothers. Soldiers stepped back from the heat. The fire was so great, no one could go near it. Even the birds in the sky flew far away. The king watched from his throne, smiling. "I told you," he said. "No one mocks me and lives." Ibrahim alayhi salam stood alone. His hands were tied, his body bruised, but his eyes calm. He didn't scream. He didn't beg. He didn't curse. He whispered only one thing. "Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa. Alayhi tawakkaltu. Wa huwa Rabbul Arshil Azim. Allah is sufficient for me. There is no God but Him. In Him I trust. And He is the Lord of the mighty throne." The catapult was ready. The soldiers placed him inside. The ropes pulled back. The king gave the order. "Launch him." The ropes snapped. The sky opened. Ibrahim flew through the air toward death, toward fire, toward the end. But then a command was sent from above. Allah said, "O fire, be cool and safe for Ibrahim." Qur'an 21:69. In an instant, everything changed. The fire that burned wood, the fire that scared birds, the fire that made people weep became cold, not freezing, not painful, just cool and safe. Ibrahim landed inside the fire, but no flame touched him, no rope held him, no pain reached him. He stood inside a miracle. Outside the pit, the people waited for screams, for smoke, for the smell of burning flesh. But nothing came. Hours passed. Still silence. The king grew nervous. He sent his men closer. The fire still blazed, but deep inside, they saw a man, alive, untouched, peaceful. Ibrahim sat on a stone, smiling, thanking Allah, praising his Lord in the middle of a fire. The soldiers dropped their weapons. The crowd stepped back. The king's mouth opened, but no words came out. He had thrown a man into fire, but the fire obeyed the man's Lord. The king returned to his palace. His robe dragged behind him. His crown felt heavy. He walked in silence. That night, he didn't sleep, not a single moment. He stared into the dark ceiling above his bed. He heard Ibrahim's words in his mind. Allah brings the sun from the east, bring it from the west. My Lord is the one who gives life and causes death. He covered his ears, but the truth would not leave. He shouted, Silence, I am the ruler. I control life. I control death. But even he could feel it now. He controlled nothing. Still, he refused to admit defeat. He refused to bow. He refused to believe. So he ordered more statues, more temples, more chants in his name. He told the people, I survived the challenge. I am still God. But deep down, he was afraid. Meanwhile, Ibrahim walked free. He returned to his people, not with pride, but with purpose. He stood among them and said, Do you not see? Your idols did not save you. Your king could not burn me. It is Allah who protects. It is Allah who creates. It is Allah who deserves your worship. Some believed him. Some followed him. But many still chose the king. They loved the palace. They loved the power. They feared the fire more than they feared their Lord. Back in the palace, the king sat alone. His crown now felt like chains. His golden cup shook in his hand. He looked in the mirror. His eyes were tired. His heart was heavy. And then he whispered, If he truly has a God, then where is mine? There was no answer. No thunder, no fire, no sun from the west. Only silence. The kind of silence that chokes a man's soul. But still, he didn't stop. He called his magicians. He summoned his builders. He declared, I will build a tower to the heavens. I will challenge the Lord of Ibrahim. The people clapped. The workers obeyed. The construction began. But the skies above were not afraid, and Allah was not watching with worry. He was watching with power. The man who sat on gold was about to fall into dust. The tower was never finished. Stone by stone, the workers gave up. The skies didn't open. No doors to heaven appeared. No reply came to the king. His plan to challenge Allah failed. But his pride still burned. He sent spies to follow Ibrahim. He sent guards to watch his movement. He told the people, This man is dangerous. He wants to destroy your gods. He wants to divide the nation. But Ibrahim did not stop. He walked through the markets, through the temples, through the crowds, and he called with patience, O my people, worship Allah. You have no other God but him. Some listened, some laughed, some lowered their heads in thought. The king's fear grew, not because of an army. Ibrahim had no army. Not because of wealth. Ibrahim owned no gold. The king feared him because truth was spreading and hearts were waking up. One voice, one man, no violence. But still, it shook the kingdom. In the quiet of the night, Ibrahim prayed. He raised his hands and said, My Lord, make this land safe. Keep me and my children away from idol worship. Quran 14:35. He knew the war was not fought with swords. It was fought in the hearts of men. A war between belief and disbelief. Between the Creator and the king. The king still ruled the land, but the people were watching. Whispers grew stronger. The fire didn't touch him. The king had no answer. The sun still rises from the east. The king called his advisors. Why won't he stop? He asked. I gave him a chance. I showed him power. An old advisor replied, You showed him fear, but he has no fear. You gave him fire, but he walks with peace. You are a king, but he walks with the king of all kings. The king shouted, Silence. I am the God of this land. But even his own heart trembled. Ibrahim turned to his people once more. He pointed to the idols and said, Have they helped you? Have they spoken? Can they protect you? He reminded them, It is Allah who created the heavens and the earth. He gives life. He causes death. He guides. He forgives. So why do you turn away? Some men wept. Some women lowered their heads. The seeds of truth had entered their hearts. The king heard about it. He smashed his cup. He shouted, If the gods will not stop him, then I will. But deep inside, He knew he had already lost, not on the battlefield, not in the streets, but in silence, in the hearts of his people, in the stillness of the night. The silent war could not be stopped. It wasn't fought with swords. It wasn't won with gold. It was the kind of war where truth walks quietly, but breaks every wall of arrogance. And though the king still sat on his throne, he knew the end was near, because the most dangerous enemy is not the one with weapons, but the one with guidance from Allah. The throne still stood, the crown still shined, but inside the palace, the king was breaking. He had everything: power, gold, statues, armies, but none of it gave him peace. He couldn't sleep. He couldn't think. He couldn't forget the fire that failed to burn. He couldn't erase the words, "Allah brings the sun from the east, bring it from the west." The memory of Ibrahim's calm face burned deeper than any flame. The silence of that courtroom still rang louder than war drums. The king gathered his priests. He demanded answers. He offered rewards. "Find a way to defeat this man's God," he said. But they had no answers. They worshipped wood and stone. They feared a man who walked without fear. They could not match the one who gave fire a command. So the king turned to himself. He told his soldiers, "If Ibrahim's God sends no storm, then I have nothing to fear." He stood on his balcony, proud, tall, smiling in his own illusion. He believed his silence had defeated the truth. He believed Allah had stopped sending signs. He was wrong. It began with a sound, small, annoying, constant. A soft buzzing in the air. A gnat. It flew past the guard, past the pillars, past the gold. It entered the palace, unnoticed, tiny, weak, harmless. But this was no accident. This was a soldier sent by Allah. The gnat circled above the king's head. It moved with speed, with precision, and then it dove into his nose. The king shouted, "Remove it!" But no one could see it. No one could reach it. No one could stop it. It crawled deeper. It reached his brain. And then the pain began. Not a sharp pain, not a cut. It was something worse. A pressure he couldn't escape. A fire inside his skull. A hammer in his head. Without end. He screamed. He tore his robe. He pulled his crown off his head. He fell to the ground, clutching his face, trembling. His servants rushed in. "My lord, what is it?" he cried. "It's in my head. It's in my head. Hit me. Hit my head." They looked at each other in fear. He ordered again, "Hit me." A servant grabbed a small hammer and struck the king's head. The pain eased just a little. The king gasped in relief. Then the pain returned, and so it continued, day after day, night after night. For years, he could not eat without screaming. He could not sleep without pain. He could not speak without shaking. He became a prisoner in his own palace, a god, begging to be hit, a ruler, destroyed by something he could not see. The news spread. The mighty king is losing his mind. He screams all day. He begs to be struck with a hammer. His people laughed in whispers. His priests stopped coming. His soldiers avoided his room. He was alone, not feared, not worshipped, just pitied. But he was still alive, only because Allah allowed it. He lived in shame. Every blow to his skull reminded him that even the smallest of Allah's creation could defeat the greatest of men. One morning, the pain stopped. No one knows why. The gnat may have died, or the brain may have collapsed. Either way, the king did not rise. He was found cold, lifeless, face down on the floor of his golden room. No war had taken him. No prophet had struck him. No sword was raised. Just a gnat. This is how Allah ends tyrants. Not always with earthquakes, not always with floods. Sometimes with silence. Sometimes with a creature smaller than a grain of rice. Because the truth is, indeed, Allah does not shy away from using the example of a gnat. Qur'an 2:26. And Allah does not forget. He gave the tyrant chances. He sent signs. He showed mercy. But when the truth is rejected with arrogance, the end comes in the most unexpected way. Ibrahim (alayhi) continued his mission. He left the land. He walked free. He built a new legacy, one of faith, not fear, one of truth, not power. The tyrant fell. The prophet rose, and the gnat returned to the dust it came from.